Welcome back to the Frank Crowley Courthouse. I'm Judge Shaquita Kelly, presiding judge of County Criminal Court number 11, here with my colleague Judge Stephanie Huff. She is the presiding judge of the 291st Judicial District Court. And today we're talking about the difference between grand jury and jury service. I bet you don't know, but she's going to tell you. So, Judge Huff, why don't you give us a breakdown on what the difference is between serving as a grand juror and serving as a juror?
So grand jury and jury service are two totally different functions, and people often get confused because they hear grand jury and they automatically think, well, if a grand jury's heard it, why are we sitting here having a jury trial on it? With a grand jury, that is 12 people that listen to anywhere maybe up to 100 cases a day being read into them by either prosecutors or police detectives. They're just reading their reports. And the purpose of that is that in order for someone to be indicted or tried on a felony offense, to even have one pending on your record or in your life, you've got to first have it presented to a grand jury. The grand jury hears the report being read in by the police or the prosecutors, and then they decide whether or not there's a sufficient amount of probable cause to forward this case forward to an actual felony court.
So grand jury is before they even get a formal indictment?
Correct.
Okay.
And so in order for you to have a felony case pending, it has to be indicted first by a grand jury, meaning they find it to be true that there's enough probable cause and they'll forward it to a felony court. So once it gets to a felony court, then it's up to the trier of fact, as we call it in the legal world, which could either be the judge or a jury of 12 more people that will listen to the evidence that's presented. And this time the defense has an opportunity to present evidence if they choose to. The defendant has an opportunity to be there, which in a grand jury, it's a secret process. You don't know who's sitting on the grand jury. The defense is typically not allowed in. They can submit packets sometimes with their position on things.
What's a packet?
A packet is where maybe they'll put together an alibi or something that might be able to say this person doesn't deserve to be indicted. There's not sufficient probable cause.
So it's like a presentation to the jury?
It is, but it's in paper format, and they don't get to sit there and cross-examine the witnesses or the officer or anything like you get with an actual jury trial. And the reason for that is with a jury trial, the jury's not looking for probable cause, which is a very low standard. That's what the grand jury is looking for. A jury is looking for actual proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they find that there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt, then they can convict you of that offense. If they don't, then they find you not guilty, which means that you then are eligible to get that expunged from your record and all those things. But a grand jury just says true bill or no bill. We want to indict you or we don't want to indict you. That's it. Whereas a jury actually decides whether or not you're going to have a conviction on your record. And it varies in a jury trial. For instance, in a misdemeanor court, misdemeanor cases don't go before a grand jury. And there are only 6 jurors on a jury in a misdemeanor case. Whereas in felonies, 12 people on a grand jury hear it. If they choose to indict, it goes forward for 12 other citizens to listen to and decide.
Okay, so how do I become a grand juror and how do I become a juror for a jury trial?
So with the grand jury summons, what we do is we send out a request to several people in the county and they come in. And a lot of people don't want to serve on grand juries, which is unfortunate because it's such an important function in our system. But it requires at least 3 months out of your life. I said that wrong. 3 months commitment, because you might be on a grand jury that goes from, works on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or you may be on a grand jury that only works Tuesday and Thursday. But that consists of you being here from 8 until all the cases are read in for that day. And most times it's done by about noon, but sometimes it can go into the afternoon hours.
You said sometimes it's like 100 a day, right?
Exactly.
So grand jury is not a one-day service?
Not at all. It is a service that you're going to do over the course of 3 months because you're doing an actual term on the grand jury. And so some people can't make that kind of commitment away from their jobs or their lives of that kind of time span. And so you tell us whether or not you can serve. It's not required that you serve, but we try to select a very diverse population from all over the county to serve on a grand jury, because I like to have a mixture of young and old and different racial backgrounds because it's so important. With the actual jury trial though, we bring in a panel of people and both the state gets to talk to them as well as the defense, and then they get to make strikes for whatever reason they choose, as long as it's not based on race, gender, ethnicity, those things. And then we take the first 12 people that are eligible, that haven't been struck for whatever reason.
So jury service is one day,
one trial, one case, that's it.
And then grand jury is up to 100 cases, but it's a span of 3 months of service.
Correct.
And grand jury happens before the case is actually indicted,
Correct.
correct? Okay. Just so
Before
that
it
the-
even comes to me, before I even have jurisdiction over the case, it has to be indicted.
Before it gets to court.
Exactly.
But then jury service is after you've gotten to court.
Correct.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope that this made a difference and people choose to serve on a grand jury because it is so important.
Right. So don't come into the courthouse telling me, I can't be fair. You need to serve.
Yes.
Your community needs you. Thank you.
Thank you.